How long does organic content take to see results? And specifically for high ticket clients. So first of all, here are some of my results. Pause and read that if you want. I've had many channels in the past. I help other people run their channels and make money from it. But in regards to this video, when I say results, what do I actually mean? When I say results, I'm mainly going to be talking about cash or money in this case. Now, for any business, results typically look like this. So as you can see here on the x-axis, we have time, and on the y-axis, we have results. Now, there is a long period that is known as the dark ages, and this is especially true for organic content. If you're an entrepreneur or if you've run a business before, I'm sure you know exactly what this is and exactly what this feels like. This is probably one of the worst feeling times, but ironically, it'll be one of your favorite memories once you're up here. Now, in this video, I'm going to be talking about specifically the inflection point. This is when everything sort of turns for the better and you actually start getting real results. And then eventually it will plateau, and actually in the long run, typically businesses kind of look like steps. So it will plateau again, and then you'll find maybe a new breakthrough, and then you'll go up again. And then maybe this will plateau, and then, that will plateau. Then you find a new breakthrough and it will go up again. And it really just looks like steps in a way. That's what big businesses really are. Maybe these inflection points here are like a completely different business shift, for example. But anyway, looking at the ways of getting clients, organic is definitely one of the slowest. If you want something faster, I would recommend either cold outreach or paid ads. These are the main three. This is like the holy triad. You have organic content, cold outreach, and paid ads. These three together make up the majority of your clients. Anyway, for cold outreach, the results you see are almost instant. Sure, there is a little bit of a dark period here, but it's a lot smaller than organic or paid ads, and we'll get there in a second. But the only problem with cold outreach is it can't really scale that high, if you know what I mean. It plateaus a lot sooner than organic does, for sure. So that's why I recommend to most people start with cold outreach. Now, the next part is paid ads. This one is a bit tricky because you need capital to start. So this one's actually better to start after you've been doing one of the other ones, or if you're already just naturally starting at a higher point in capital. And the funny thing is, this dip in results can actually be mitigated by increasing the depth of it. So basically, the length of how long this dark period is actually like a negative period, can be decreased if you increase the depth of it. So basically, you can have a really long dark period that's really shallow, which is like playing it safe basically, or you can have a really short dark period that's super deep, and that's like going all in. You're like risking everything basically, and that really depends on where you are in your business. Now, so the optimal strategy most people usually do is they start with cold outreach. Maybe they get a decent level up here, and on top of that, they're also running organic content once they have their first few clients. Once they have their first results, then they start doing organic content. Now, this takes a long time to simmer, but it will eventually go up. Now, once you do cold outreach enough, you can actually switch to paid ads. Now, this kind of will take a dip at first, and then it will ride along the wave of organic content, and it will just skyrocket from here. Organic content plus paid ads, it's literally game over at that point. So this is the ideal strategy in my opinion, so take that what you will. But enough said, this video is going to be about organic. Now, if you want the short answer, the very rough estimate answer of how long it takes roughly of this dark age period, the short answer is going to be 90 days. But that's only if you do everything right. And obviously it could be shorter, it could be longer depending on where you are. But that's obviously not 100% true for everyone. So we're going to be going in depth on the exact variables that actually cause this, starting with views. And this is obviously going to be maybe not the fastest step, but it will be the first step that you actually see results in, and that will be your views. But the speed obviously depends on where you post. So TikTok is going to be typically the fastest by far. You literally get so many views and you can just post so much. Instagram is going to be kind of in the middle, and YouTube is going to be the slowest. So how do you do it? First of all, the most important thing by far that everyone needs to do is understand your niche avatar. Understand your ideal customer that you're selling to. And for this, I have a little document here completely for free, no emails, whatever. I just can't put it in the description yet, so you can just DM me at my Instagram that'll be on screen now to have access to this. But basically, you just go here, you copy this entire prompt and put it into ChatGPT, Claude, or Gemini, and then it will output a complete cohesive document on your exact niche avatar. Then with this avatar, you need to make targeted videos targeting their pain points, their problems, and everything about their niche avatar, specifically to your business and how you want to sell them. Now, with that out of the way, let's go on to the posting frequency for the main 3 platforms. So I've split this up into the first half of posting and the ideal half, starting with TikTok. So when you make a new TikTok account, you probably just want to post 1 to 3 times a day. And this is purely because you might get shadow banned if you post more than that on a new account, an account with not much trust. That's the only reason you don't want to be posting 5 to 7 times a day. All of these social medias have a hidden score, and that's your trust score. And you could basically run out of trust if you post more than this starting out. Once you're getting like 300 to 1,000 views per TikTok, then definitely ramp up to 5 to 7 times a day. And that's going to be ideal for you. Now, Instagram, you kind of just need to start with carousels. I don't really mean specifically just carousels, but I just mean like having a nice looking account, having a reputable account with actual credibility. Whether this just be with your friends, you can use your personal Instagram for that. If that's the case, then you can skip right to the ideal strategy. But if not, then you can literally just try and make your account better. Now for YouTube, it's the same for either way. Just post 1 to 3 times per week. Long form, of course. You can post shorts too. I think shorts are kind of coming on an uprise a little bit, but 1 to 3 times a week for long form videos seems to be ideal. I think 2 times is the sweet spot. Now, the most important thing by far for all of these is obviously stay consistent, even in the dark periods. Even when you have no results, nothing to show for it, even when you're right here, nothing's happening, stay consistent, keep posting, it will work eventually. Then when you start getting views, this is the graph for views specifically, maybe this is like, 1,000 views or something, you're kind of plateaued there. But once you start getting actual views, then you can reevaluate. And if you're not getting clients, if you have like a lot of views, then something's definitely wrong and you need to go back to step 1. That leads us to our next stage, and that is credibility. Now, there are actually a few stages within this individual credibility section, but first, your niche avatar needs to hit them. And what I mean by that is they must think, that's literally me. You must be calling out to your core audience, like to a T. Your videos need to be super targeted to whoever you're trying to sell to, that they literally think that it's literally them. And this is done through targeted and specific content. If it's broad and generic, most likely it's not going to work. Broad and generic can work if you're like really, really big, like a really big YouTuber or a really big TikToker, then you can do broad or generic. That's more of a top of funnel thing. But you really want to be targeted and specific towards your target customer, your niche avatar. That is really what's going to save you. Next, let's look at actually credibility. So credibility is the first thing, and I like to break credibility into 2 different scores. So number 1, we have your trust score. This basically determines if they have low trust or high trust towards you. And the whole skill of sales in general is increasing from low trust to high trust. That's basically everything that sales comes down to, is increasing your trust. Now, the next part is expert rating. That's just what I call it. Basically how good they see you as in this subject. So they could see you, if they see you as a complete noob, they're not going to buy from you, of course. And if they see you as like an expert, a god of your niche, then, they have a higher chance of buying, of course. So that's what credibility comes down to. Next, we have demand. Now, this is the next most important part, and this basically comes down to your customer's pain. How painful is their problem right now? Do they need it solved yesterday? If so, that's probably maximum pain. If it's just like a sort of it's a minor inconvenience, then it's probably like pretty close to nothing. This is going to be a lot more low ticket, but the higher the pain is, the more you can charge, is usually the case. Now that we know what credibility and demand are, how do these actually play a role in everything? Basically, your revenue is determined by the credibility times the demand times a second variable. So what's the second variable? Let's go on to the third part right now, which is revenue. And so this equation Revenue is equal to your credibility times your demand, and all that times time, basically how much time has elapsed. This works pretty much because if they have zero demand for the product, but let's say you have maximum credibility and it spans like 100 years or whatever, they're still not going to buy because they don't want the product. They don't have any desire for it. Same thing, if they super need the product and it's also been 100 years, but you have zero credibility, it's like they see you as not even an option for that niche, then they're not going to buy. It's as simple as that. If you have both of these ticked, if you have a lot of credibility and a lot of demand, it's only a matter of time. So this equation pretty much describes revenue as simply as I can. So we understand credibility and demand, so how do we contextualize time? Now, you've probably heard of this rule before. If you haven't, then let me just quickly explain it. This is the 7-11-4 rule. And this is basically from Google's old analytics that basically means a customer needs roughly 7 hours of watch time or whatever, 11 touch points, and 4 different locations before they're likely to purchase from you. So like I said, 7 hours, 11 touch points, and 4 different locations. Now, I know this is Google data, so it is somewhat old, but I still think this 7-hour rule still holds true mostly. So if you post the frequency I mentioned earlier, here's roughly the math. Obviously, they're gonna vary, especially your target audience. It might watch like 30 minutes of YouTube a week. It really depends, but this averages out to 7.5 hours in 90 days. Obviously, if you only post on one of the platforms, you're gonna need to either make the videos longer probably, or post a bit more. For example, if you only post on TikTok, which I really don't recommend, TikTok is probably the most top of funnel solution, the least targeted of all of the three, then you're gonna need to post a lot more and get a lot more views. But this is high ticket we're talking about, and for high ticket, the majority of time is going to come from YouTube. And that's why YouTube is really overused by so many entrepreneurs now trying to sell something. And for a good reason, because it actually works. Instagram also works as well. Instagram is kind of like a manufactured personality place where they really feel like you're kind of like their friend in a way, which is basically increasing the trust automatically because you seem a lot more like a real person on Instagram compared to YouTube or TikTok. Now, high ticket can take months for this process, but 90 days is enough to know if the strategy is working. Like I said, if you're not getting any revenue by 90 days of posting with this strategy, then something is likely wrong. You're probably not making targeted videos enough, or maybe your expert rating is too low, or your trust score is too low, or you're just not targeting their pain enough. It's likely one of those issues if you're not getting clients in the first 90 days. Now, if you want help figuring out your specific 90-day plan, or just have questions to ask me for free, feel free to message me on my personal Instagram at tashielyonns. Now, this is my personal Instagram. It's not a bot account or whatever. But yeah, if you found this useful, let me know. Thanks for watching. Bye.